Don't enter sewer pipes. Don't tell me what to do. Oh, so it's gonna be that kind of game, is it? Remember I Wanna Be the Guy? It was a brutally difficult side-scrolling platformer developed by Michael K. O'Reilly and released for free on the internet back in 2007. It was dickish, tedious, and just an all-around bad time. The only bits of the game that anybody could derive any sort of joy from were the music and boss cameos from well-known video games. Despite its loathsome legacy, it left an impression on the game industry, inspiring games like Battle Kid.
I got a crazy boner right now. Like, I am fucking rock hard and I don't know why. It's not for Battle Kid. I swear it's not.
And Super Meat Boy. While Castle in the Darkness isn't anywhere near as punishing as IWBTG, why'd I even bother abbreviating that? It is undeniable that it has just a tiny bit of the same DNA. Personally, I think that just 1% of this formula in a game is too much, but let's carry on. Castle in the Darkness is a side-scroller with light Metroidvania elements, developed by Matt Kapp and released on Steam in 2015. Matt Kapp was the lead artist for the Binding of Isaac Rebirth, a game that I was big into at the time. So finding out that Castle was being made by him really got me intrigued. Not to mention I absolutely adored the retro graphics and gameplay from the trailer. You won't find a deeply intricate and complex story in this game. One night, the king gets sick, so the princess,
hey baby,
commands the castle guard to go on full alert in case monsters come to take advantage of the king's weakness. Naturally, they do. Since your character is the only guard to survive, it's time to do what must always be done in these games. Save the princess. I like how the story doesn't even say she was kidnapped. It just assumes that's what happened. And you know what they say about assuming. You start with the most basic of functions, running, jumping, and a quick but short-range stab with your sword. Movement in Castle is very snappy and tight, with only the tiniest bit of carried momentum when you stop moving. You might run right into some enemies when you're first starting out, but stick with it and you'll get used to the movement. You'll quickly start finding additions to your arsenal after the first zone, like a powerful throwing axe, and a boomerang that can hit twice if you throw it just right, along with an assortment of different swords. Skip this one, just trust me. You'll also collect spells that can be used by charging your sword attack. They function well enough, but I feel they could have been implemented a little better here. I don't much enjoy having to stop and charge a spell whenever I want to use it. I think that having a spell button to cast instantly and an MP bar that refills upon resting would have been much better. It would at least give the player the mental process of rationing their magic instead of... Yeah, that sound gets old too. Alright, time to move the deep fryer and reveal the nasty grease underneath. I like Castle in the Darkness, but this game is hard as tits.
Whose tits you been grabbing that feel hard? That's what I want to know. Fuck you!
Years ago, I wrote a Steam review defending the game's liberal use of spikes. I wrote that they keep the player engaged and having fun. Well man, let me tell you, an opinion sure can change a lot in 4 years. So let me just... Tell me friends, what is the purpose of spikes in a video game? Often it's a punishment for failing a platforming segment. You miss a jump, you fall into spikes, losing a life. That's okay. What isn't okay is scattering spikes in random places, hoping that the player will have a brief lapse in their attention span and accidentally walk into them. I don't feel any sense of accomplishment by just jumping over a random set of spikes on the floor, but I do feel massive anger when I accidentally get killed by one. This is that 1% of I wanna be the guy showing its ugly face.
Ooh, that was close.
There are also some haha I'm Matt Cap and I'm so fucking funny traps that are fairly inoffensive since they tend to be near save points. Don't get mad at me just because I'm calling you out on your bullshit, Matt. You brought this on yourself. There are plenty of boss fights that range from "I can handle this no problem" to "this is gonna take a while" to "that's bullshit." Here's a "that's bullshit" example. It's the first time you fight this frog who's also after the princess. This was the fight that made me speak words that I never thought I would speak. I said, "I kinda wish this game had knockback upon taking a hit." Turns out, knockback exists in other games for a reason. The bullshit in this fight comes from just how patient you have to be. The frog dude runs back and forth and periodically stops, giving you a chance to approach from behind and get some damage in. Most of the time he'll do a jumping spin attack when he starts moving again, but sometimes, if he's feeling froggy, he'll just turn around and smack you with his sword, which is so fast that there's no way to avoid it. The only way to win this fight is to get a safe amount of hits on his back and quickly back away before he could potentially deal unavoidable damage. This makes the fight take longer, which increases your chances of making mistakes and taking contact damage. I'm not a fan of it, and I was happy when it was over. Whoa. Yeah. Boss weaknesses are a thing in this game. I think I've made my point about the difficulty. On to some other things. Another similarity that Castle has with I Wanna Be the Guy is all the references to other video games, such as Bubble Bobble, Castlevania skeletons, zombies, axe throwers, and Medusa heads in this clock tower. Not to mention this hallway straight out of Symphony of the Night, Goombas and Thwomps, Metroids, Sonic the Hedgehog, and this reference to Sonic 3. Oh yeah, I wonder what's gonna happen here. Asshole. And then you've got the Windy Ruins theme, which starts with the Final Fantasy battle theme, and then transitions into a Castlevania theme. I don't mean this to come off like I dislike all these references. On the contrary, it's like a celebration of all the video games we grew up with. Speaking of the soundtrack, it is excellent. Turns out Matt Cap is also a pretty solid composer. Some of my favorite tracks are The Journey Begins, which plays during the opening cinematic, and Push Forward, which has a very moving melody and it actually gives me goosebumps. Man, that is just awesome. I'm really glad I decided to play this again for a review. It reminded me of how good this soundtrack is, adding another one to the Bandcamp recommendation list. I don't plan this, guys, it just so happens that every game I review on this show has a bomb-ass soundtrack. Hell, I even like the little tune that plays when you get an item. Oh, so satisfying. Despite the frustrations, I really enjoyed Castle in the Darkness my first time through, but really that was the only time that I had the patience to finish it. Even for this review, I stopped playing about halfway through, though that probably has something to do with having a lot of other games that I want to play.
This game is fucking awesome!
It's just as well, I don't like to spoil late game content in my videos. Better to leave some surprises for prospective buyers. It's only $10 on Steam, and unfortunately is only available on that platform at the time of this review. Castle in the Darkness has its frustrating moments, but I'm still pretty fond of it. Maybe give it a shot sometime. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a princess that I'd like to get to know a little better. Hey girl, so you want to come over to my place and check out the Bone Zone? Ow.